So Lock and Key Season 3 is supposed to be the epic grand finale of the entire series, only in 3 seasons, and it was a bit of a letdown, and I'm probably being gracious saying a bit. It was a pretty big letdown, honestly. Welcome back, my friends, to another video here on the channel. Today, bringing you guys my kind of discussion type review. Again, if you guys have seen my past reviews, I like to kind of discuss it off the top of my head and not really do anything crazy formal. I feel like it's just a better format, but again, I'm always open to feedback if you guys prefer something else and whatnot. We do a lot of reactions here on the channel, but have been adding some reviews into the mix, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying that. So we just finished watching Season 3 of Lock and Key. And now here's the thing, I do want to preface this by saying I'm a big fan of the series. I also will say that don't worry, I'm not going to get into spoiler territory, and if I do decide to go into spoilers, I will give you fair warning. So for now, you're good, you're safe, you don't have to worry and click off the video just yet. So, big fan of the first 2 seasons. When the first season came out, I fell in love with the whole idea and whole, I guess, show in and of itself. It was just a lot of fun. It had that magical kind of fantasy vibe. I'm a big fan of that kind of genre. And then, season 2 came out. Again, it kind of expanded on that. I thought season 2 was really solid. And they announced that season 3 was going to be the final season. I was bummed out, but I was still really excited for it and was highly anticipating it. And by the time season 3 finally came out, just a few days ago at the time of recording this, we started watching it, and when we kind of started getting through the first couple episodes, it's started to kind of dawn on me that it wasn't very well executed, unfortunately. There's a lot of, plot points that, I'm not going to get into too much details because I want to kind of just give you a broad stroke of review, but first of all, it started kind of slow, and it just felt kind of rushed and sloppy. And what I felt for the majority, unfortunately, of the entirety of the season is that this season felt like they just kind of rushed it out. They just, the writing, if I was to put it, I guess, in a simple term, it felt like they filmed the rough draft of the scripts. They felt like they filmed the rough draft of the story. The concept, like the baseline, the foundation of the story is solid, and I think that if that would have been more fleshed out, it would have been a lot better, but it didn't feel like it was fleshed out enough. It felt like it was just, again, it felt very sloppy, and it felt like it was just very all over the place. Like it wasn't really well thought out. There's a lot of points that to me didn't really make a lot of sense in some regard, and just kind of felt, I don't know, it just felt weird. It didn't feel like the first 2 seasons to me. And if you look up a lot of the reviews online, it seems like a lot of people feel similarly. I think it has like a user score or whatever of like, I think it was like 6 maybe out of 10, whereas the other ones had closer to like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10, if I remember correctly. So again, it seems like the general consensus is that, this season wasn't as good as the first 2, and it's unfortunate because it is the last season. Now, that said, it wasn't all bad. There was some good elements, but like I said, the first half felt like it just wasn't even worth watching, if I'm being completely honest. The first like 2-3 episodes I think were pretty bad in my opinion. Again, you got to keep in mind reviews are subjective. Maybe other people are going to love the first 3 episodes or whatever. But about the first 2-3, maybe even 4 episodes, it felt kind of, the worst. And then the final half of the season felt like it started to kind of at least get a lot better. But even then, again, it felt like it was just kind of like not completely thought through. You know what I mean? Again, the only thing I can keep coming back to, the only phrase is that it didn't feel completely fleshed out. It felt like a rough draft. Now, when you got to the very end of the season, it was a very good ending to this, to I guess the series and to the season, but everything that kind of preceded it as season 3, as a final season, as a whole, wasn't very good. But the way that they chose to conclude it, again, I'm not going into spoilers in this portion right now. The way they chose to conclude it, I thought was really well done. I think that all the scenes that were at the very end, like maybe like the last 20-30 minutes of the final episode, let's say, or actually the final episode might have been only 30 minutes. I don't remember. I think it was like maybe 40 to 50 minutes total. So the last like 20 minutes of that episode, roughly, all those scenes and how they kind of, unraveled and panned out, I think were really well done, and a nice little conclusion to finish off the story. I think they finished it off nicely, but there's also some certain elements that felt like some plot holes, and some things that, like, again, felt like they weren't really thought through. And again, I'm going to go a little bit more into details in the spoiler section, but for the people that don't want any spoilers, that's kind of the most I can say as of this point. It just felt like they felt like, okay, they're ending it, but they also felt like they left it out with, an open door, right? Kind of like that there could be a season 4, even though they announced that there won't be a season 4, and that part made no sense to me. I will also say that, the main, like I said, the main plot point, I'm trying to be very careful not to spoil it in this section. The main plot point was pretty solid, and they introduced at least one new key. I can't remember. There might have been more. Yeah, actually there was more. There's at least 2 new keys. There might have been even more beyond that, but there's at least 2 new keys. So that was cool, that we, even though it was the final season, they were concluding everything, they still managed to tie in a couple new keys, and they were pretty unique in and of themselves. So that was pretty cool as well. Beyond that, can I say anything more without spoiling it? Not really. So I guess at this point, if you don't want any spoilers, click off the video. That would be that. That's it for that. And if you're sticking around, spoilers ahead. Again, I got to say it one more time. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. If you're here, be ready for spoilers. You're still here. Okay, I warned you. You can't say I didn't warn you. If you're still here, we're gonna jump into this. Okay, so the main idea here is that Gideon, who seems to be a demon that is even more powerful than Dodge, is trying to get all the keys to connect the 2 worlds. It kind of felt like Stranger Things, to be honest. And when he kind of starts to open up the portal's blue, right? We've seen the portal in the kind of the sea cave or whatever it's called, behind the locked door. We've seen a similar portal before, but he's trying to open up the whole thing and just kind of like mesh the 2 worlds. Again, felt like very kind of Stranger Things-esque. Did they take inspiration from Stranger Things? I'm not saying they did. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I'm just kind of giving something to relate it to. So the idea is that if he has all the keys in his hand, he can just rip open the portal, and that it just kind of like consumes this world and kind of blends them or whatever. So his whole thing is he's trying to get all the keys. So he creates a couple echoes because he can't take, demons can't take keys from locks, right? But echoes can. So he creates a couple echoes to help him. And there's this whole storyline, and that's kind of the main plot line. So that's good in and of itself. But again, I feel like the beats, like how when you're going through a story, there's certain beats that you hit throughout a story. It just felt like off rhythm. Okay, if we're talking like in music terms, it felt off rhythm. It didn't feel right. It felt off. It felt like things didn't make sense. For example, the girl from Montana, I forget her name right now. I'm trying to blank on her name. Anyways, that Tyler had like this sort of thing with. They just kind of assumed that you would assume that, they had some sort of history, they've been working together for X amount of time, number of months. She's obviously has a thing for him. But then like, it was weird because like, it almost felt like the first time they ever go out. And then after that, Tyler goes home and she worries about him. So she comes and visits him. I don't know. It felt like there wasn't a lot there. It was kind of like a lot of question marks all around. That was just one example of what I mean. And it was confusing in that regard, right? And again, when you're watching through it, it just feels like the beats are off rhythm. It's just that I don't know how else to explain it. So there's that. But like I said, the main plot point was good, right? There's a new keys, which they introduced one new key that apparently you can draw, and anything you draw, comes to life, which is really cool, which, I would have liked to see that used a little bit more. They showed it kind of like at the very, very end practically. But the whole idea is that Gideon ended up ripping, a fair-sized portal in the floor of Key House, right? Because he thought he had all the keys, and so he was using them, but then the portal just stopped opening. So he realized he was missing keys. So this portal's just kind of stuck there. So at the very end, again, massive spoilers, we're going into full spoiler territory. Basically Kenzie uses the alpha key on him, and then they kick him into the portal, and he had like 2 keys on him, and when he went into the portal got a little bit smaller, and then Tyler realized it's the keys. So if you throw some keys in there, the portal gets smaller. And so there's this whole thing. Earlier, by the way, I said that they introduced 2 new keys. I just remembered there's a third one, which is kind of like this time key where you can go back in time for, like 5-10 minutes at a time or whatever. What I really liked is the ending scene is before Bodhi agreed with everyone else to throw the keys into the portal. He wanted to do one last thing, and that was to go see his dad, because the whole thing throughout this whole season is that, he was really missing his dad and whatnot. And so I think that was a beautiful, beautiful scene that was just so important, especially to end it off. They traveled back in time to go see their dad. They spent a little bit with him. Obviously he's familiar with the keys, so he knew what key they were using and that they were from the future. He would never remember that, obviously, but they would, and they had that memory to create and just kind of chill and have a moment where he's seen them in their older form and how they've grown up, and just to say that he's proud of them. I mean, it was just beautiful. That's what I mean when I say, like, the way they ended it was really nice. And also, there was kind of like a reconnection with that girl from Montana with Tyler, and then, they're going to go hang out, or I guess they're going like traveling together or something at the end. So that was nice that they kind of at least, came back to that and didn't leave that as a loose end, because that would have really been like, okay, dude, talk about like messy, not thought through writing. That's what that would have been if they didn't do that. So I'm thankful that they did that. And it was just kind of like a cool conclusion. They threw all the keys into the portal. The portal closed. That was that. And then, they just kind of had a nice little tie-up. Again, I'm not going to go into every little detail, but the way they ended it, like I said, the final, 20-ish minutes of the final episode was a nice way to conclude the series. But the season as a whole, again, it felt very messy for the first half. Second half got a little bit better. There were some good elements in there, but it didn't have that oomph. They didn't have that vibe that, season 1 and season 2 delivered. So I think all in all, if I'm being completely honest, I think the second half really kind of salvaged it. And if it wasn't for the second half, being at least, more solid, but even then there were still some problems. I think I would be giving it a lot lower of a score. And I hate to have to give it this kind of score because I really have loved the series, but I think I'll go with like a 6 out of 10 on this one, honestly. And even then, I'm questioning if that's, a little bit gracious or generous, if you will. Like I said, I like the way they ended it. If we're talking about just like the last 20-ish minutes of the final episode, if we kind of just seclude that, isolate that, I think that ending, like the ending, was a pretty good ending. I think that's probably like a 8.5 to 9 out of 10 kind of ending. It was pretty satisfying. But everything that preceded it was a little, hit and miss, mix and match, and so as a whole, like a 6 out of 10 for me. So I don't know if you guys have seen it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you have the same kind of gripes? Do you just not really care about those things? Do you not see those as maybe issues? Like I said, there was a few other things that were good and that were enjoyable, and there were some things that just felt like a mess. So it's not all bad and it's not all good. It's like I said, it's a mix and match. It's a hit and miss. It's just kind of a mixed bag, right? It's like trail mix. You don't know what you're gonna get until you pull a handful out and you see it's a mix of stuff. I guess that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this one, leave it a like and subscribe for more, in regards to all this kind of nerd fandom, if you will, kind of pop culture kind of stuff, reactions, reviews, TV, movies, comics, whatever. We do it here. All the gaming stuff goes on different channels, though. So if you want to check out the gaming channels, links in the description below. Stay safe, stay well. Still don't have an outro. I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.